Well, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever it is, your time zone. You're watching this either live or on replay. Welcome to another conversation on leadership. My name is Richard Talbot. I'm a leadership and business coach, trainer, and public speaker. I like to help people who want to be successful and who are successful move into significance. And that's why I'm doing this. I want to provide some chances for you to learn for free, to hopefully have a discussion, and above all, to enjoy and give you something to think about. Our lessons are all based on the book by John Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. There, I'll put it in front of my face. It's a better look than me. There we go. And today we're going to be talking about the real foundation of leadership. Leadership is based on this one issue, this one item. And if you do not have this item, you do not have this issue, then there's no one that can lead. Of course, I'm still in my secret hideaway lair somewhere in the East Coast of the United States, in a state that nicknames itself the Tar Heels. It's a beautiful day out today, not a cloud in the sky, almost no breeze. I'd say we're in our 40s or 50s. It's just gorgeous out. And I hope wherever you are, even if the weather is bad on the outside, that you have a smile and that you are having a good day today, wherever you're at. As usual, I have my trusty mug of coffee here. For those of you who have been watching or have seen some of the previous replays or seen me on YouTube or wherever, you know that I'm a coffeeholic. Not that I'm addicted to coffee, I just choose not to give it up. I enjoy it. So wherever you're at, whether it's nighttime, daytime, whether it's cold or warm, I hope you have your favorite beverage with you and that you join me today as we talk about leadership, the real foundation of leadership. So before we get started, if you've seen some of my previous ones, you've known I've given you homework assignments and give you something to think about. So I'm going to ask you, have you been thinking? Have you done those homework assignments? Have you found them helpful? I hope so. I don't want you to do something and after you get done going, why did I do that? He just wanted me to do something. That's not it at all. I hope that you learned from it, that you found something that you can apply, and that you have applied it in your life. This is a weekly series that I do on leadership. I may start another one so I can do 2 blabs a week. I don't know yet. But feel free to email me. Check out my website, richardtalbot.net. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Obviously, I'm on Blab. I'm on Facebook, Richard D. Talbot. So please check me out and let me know what you think. And if there's a particular topic you would like to have me cover, let me know. And if I can, I will. And if I don't know it, I'll research it. And together we can learn on what it means to be a leader, to live a life of not only success, but even moving beyond success into significance. So if you're ready, let's get started with the real foundation of leadership. So what do you think that foundation is as I sip my great warm cup of coffee? Thank goodness for coffee beans. You know what I'm saying? People, if you happen to be around areas that grow coffee, like Hawaii, Colombia, Nicaragua, Kenya, wherever you're at, and if you don't grow coffee, find somebody near you who is and just thank them. Thank them for me, because I love coffee. I've loved it for years. So, what do you think is the real foundation of leadership? John Maxwell in his book calls this chapter the law of solid ground. You've got to have solid ground. There's a story in the New Testament in the Bible, and yes, I'll tell you up front, I am a person of faith. I am a Christian. And Jesus tells a story about a person who builds his house on a rock and builds his house on the sand. And how the person who builds his house on the sand cannot weather the storms that come. the rain, the wind, the waves, whatever it is. But the person who builds their house upon a rock, something solid, something firm, they stand and they will last. And you know, that applies not just in a spiritual sense like what Jesus was talking about, but it also applies in a sense business-wise, professionally, and personally as well. What is your foundation? What is it that you just stand on and hold on to no matter what? Well, for leadership, that solid ground, that foundation, the real foundation of leadership is trust. Think about that for a second. It is trust. Without trust, you don't have anything. Without trust, people will not follow you. Without trust, well, the example that he gives, and I think it's an excellent one, I'm sure we'll come up with others, but the example he gives is that trust is like change or pocket change that you may have. Every time you make good leadership decisions, you add change to your pocket. Every time you make poor leadership decisions, you're paying out of your pocket. All leaders, you and me, every leader that we know has a limited amount of change in their pocket. And once you're out of change, you're out of leadership. You may have a position that has people report to you. You may have a position where you can tell others what to do. You may run the business that you're in. You may have your own business. But once you lose the trust of people, you're no longer truly a leader. Because remember, leadership is nothing more than influencing people. That's it. Are you able to influence people? If you're in a position, a management ownership position, you can probably boss people. You could probably tell people, but that's not influencing people. Influencing people is when you touch their heart and their mind and their emotions. They follow you, they work with you, they work for you willingly, excitedly, not out of obligation or fear. Now you can have leadership. I'm going to adjust here just a second. There we go. You can have leadership in a positive and negative sense. The assumptions I'm making today, and I've made on every video and every video to come, is that you want to be a leader in a positive sense. You want to lead people beyond where they are, even beyond where they think they can go, into a place of success and ultimately significance. And to me, there is a difference between success and significance. And we'll touch on that just a little bit today. And you'll have some opportunities I'll present to you where you can learn more about significance versus success. Some opportunities that hopefully you'll consider and take advantage of. So, trust is the foundation of leadership. If you have no trust with your people, they don't trust you, then you're not a leader. You may be the boss, you may be the manager, you may be the owner, but you're not the leader. The leader is someone people follow because they trust them. Doesn't mean they're perfect. Heaven forbid we're talking about perfection. If that's the case, none of us would have a chance to be a leader. None of us would have a chance to be successful, and frankly, none of us would ever be significant. Perfection is really unattainable for us. It's nice to strive to be the best we can be, but to be perfect all the time, because once you're not perfect, you're no longer perfection. That's a deep thought. You make one mistake, you're no longer perfect. You lose your temper once, you're short once, you say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time, whatever it could be, you just goof it. You're no longer perfect. So we're not talking about perfection. We're talking character. And that may sound weird for something on Blab or on YouTube, but character is really what this is all about. Trust is a reflection of yours and mine character. Now, I don't know about you, but that should make you somewhat uncomfortable. It makes me very uncomfortable because I know me. I know my weaknesses. I know my strengths. I know areas I need to learn and develop and grow in. I know areas that, frankly, I need to stay away from. And I know areas I need to play to my strengths and maximize. It all comes down to character. I was interviewed once by an individual, and he was wanting to talk about charisma. And he asked me a question, and I'm going to ask this of you as well. So I want you to take a moment. If you want to pause me, you can. I'll just wait a few seconds while I ask you the question. But what is charisma? What do you think charisma is? Charisma can be personality, in my opinion, energy, excitement, the image or the ability to walk into a room and just take over the room just by your mere presence. Look at it this way. Charisma will get you into almost any door you want to get into. It will open opportunities for you. If you want to be a coach, a trainer, a public speaker, charisma will get you the gig. It may even get you into the door, but it's your character, your expertise, your professionalism. It's who you are that keeps you inside that door. Charisma will open the door to get you into where you want to go, but it's your character and who you are is going to keep you in there. Because character is an inside job. It's an inside job. And if you want to be a leader, you have to be on the inside. You can't be standing on the outside of the door, pounding on it, knocking and yelling, "Follow me, follow me." You've got to be inside. And your people, the people you want to influence the most, they have to be inside you and you inside them. Leadership is an investment in people. And the true foundation of leadership, which is trust, comes when those people that you are investing yourself in trust you to take you deeper and allow them to go deeper with you. We're in the midst of, well, we're beginning a presidential campaign. Tomorrow there's a primary in a neighboring state. Then in the upcoming weeks, there'll be more primaries. And then come November, there'll be a general election. So here in the United States, we're in the midst of a we call it the political season. Some would say the politics never stop. It's a 24/7, 365, year after year after year event. But it's more highlighted now because we have individuals wanting to become the next president of the United States. One of the questions each and every voter, each and every observer must answer in one form or another is, do I trust that person enough to let them lead me, to lead our country? I would say to you that it doesn't matter what country you're in, what political system that you're in, if your leaders do not have your trust, you're less apt to follow. You may fear them. You may feel like you have no choice but to do certain things, but that doesn't mean they're influencing you in a positive way at all. Even here in the States, you may or may not agree with the current president. I'm not going to go there with my political opinions. That's another time and another place, and it's not on here. That's not what this is about. However, if our president, our current president, whether you agree or disagree, if you don't trust him, then everything else becomes suspect. If you don't trust what the person is saying, then whatever they say, you're going to doubt. Whatever they do, you're going to look for a hidden motive or a hidden agenda. If you don't trust, then there is no leadership from them to you. And that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about character. In our country, we can look back in history and see presidents that were trusted and presidents that were not trusted. You can look back and see leaders of businesses who were trusted and leaders in business who were not trusted. And those who were trusted, whether they be presidents, leaders, someone in your life, you're willing to go the extra mile for. You're willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're willing to accept their apology if they goof up. Because believe me, every leader will goof up. They will make a mistake. They will err. They will do something. And you will no longer question them or trust them unless they make it right. And that kind of goes to the next step when it comes to leadership and to trust. There are some areas on what integrity looks like, and that's really what we're talking about. If you feel they have no integrity, you can't trust them. Integrity is consistency. You can see throughout their life an attempt, a desire, a practice of being consistent, whether it's in their ethics, in their morals, in their speech, in their behavior, the way they influence others, the way they seem to try to take care of themselves. If you can see that consistency time after time after time, you're more apt to trust. You're more apt to give them the benefit of the doubt. Those are some of the questions being asked in our political campaign right now. We'll look at past statements and past voting records and past experiences and say, are you the same? Are your values the same, or have they changed? If they've changed, why? If they haven't changed, does your speech and your promises, do they align with what your values that you say they are? So is there consistency there? A second aspect of integrity and of trust is the sense of honesty. How honest is the person that you're following? If you desire to be a leader, how honest are you? Honesty at times means admitting you're wrong. Honesty says that, yes, I may have changed my opinion, but I haven't changed my core value, and here's why. Here's why I've changed my opinion. Here's why I've changed what I need to do or say. Honesty is saying, like Robert E. Lee did during the Civil War, during the Battle of Gettysburg. In the United States, we had a civil war in the 1860s. Robert E. Lee was the lead general for the South. And in the major battle in the Civil War called Gettysburg, he ordered what he called the final victory charge. We know it nowadays as Pickett's charge because that was the general that led the charge on the field, but it was ordered by Robert E. Lee, and it failed dramatically. Loss of life was horrendous. In fact, in the Civil War, I was watching a show about it last night on TV as I unwind, and that may be an editorial comment about what relaxes me, history stuff. But they lost. On both sides, the American population lost almost 2% of its population because of the war. In the United States today, if we were in a war like that and lost 2%, you're talking 6 million people. So you can see what the drama was. But in this Battle of Gettysburg, on the very last day, July 4th, he ordered this charge that failed. It came close, so close to being successful, but it failed. And as his soldiers were walking back from the battle, bloodied and beaten, wounded, leaving dead and dying comrades on the battlefield, Robert E. Lee got on his horse and rode out to meet those men and said to them time after time, "This was my fault. This was my fault." And it was. Historians, and especially military historians, can discuss and debate whether or not the attack should have been held in the first place, whether that whole battle was a mistake from the start. When that last day to win victory, maybe the general should have done something different. Those all can be debated. But on that field, on that day, over 100 years ago, he rode out to meet his men, and as the head guy, he said, "This was all my fault." Honesty is owning up to not only our successes, but our failures. I have failures. You have failures. There are things that we've done wrong, either on purpose or just because we didn't know any better. There are things that we've maybe let slip and drop because we didn't want to, or we were trying to avoid it, or we were just scared to death of the conversation, whatever. True leadership will handle those things and will be honest when they mishandle those things as well. Third characteristic of integrity is authenticity. How real are you? How real are you? How comfortable are you in your own skin? How comfortable are you being yourself in front of others? You know, there was a time in my life, more coffee, please. There was a time in my life that I could not be authentic. The business I was in, the job that I did, I felt like I had to be somebody that I wasn't. I had to be perfect. I had to be this image that I thought everybody had of me and of my role and of my job. And when you are not authentic to yourself, and you're not being authentic with others, failure is just a matter of time. You know, for years, I could avoid being a failure, even if I wasn't being authentic. However, when I failed, I realized not only was I not being authentic, I had no concept of even who I was. It's like the actor who gets so engrossed in their character, whether it's because they're in a play or in a movie, whatever, but they are so engrossed, so buried in their character that they're playing, that they forget and lose track of who they really are. Now, we may salute those actors as being, wow, fabulous. But on a personal level, though, think of what they're losing. They're losing who they are. They're losing the person that allowed them to be that character, even if only by pretending. To act is to literally, in the sense of like theater, is to react to what the other actor is doing. And you have to be able to draw from something within. A lot of actors, there's a school of training and thought in acting that you have to, if not capture the true emotion of who that character is, you have to be able to tap into something in your life that you can relate to that situation with that character. But if you lose that and you become nothing more than a hollow existence of that character, then who are you? There's an old saying, you can be some things to all people, but you can't be all things to all people. If you are authentic, there will be people who don't like you. There will be people who don't want to be involved with you. But there will be people who will stand in line to follow you. If you're willing to be authentic, then you're going to have a trust built that will be hard to knock down. Now, before we go any farther, I'm not talking about being authentic in the sense of take me, love me, or leave me. I think we have to meet the expectations of a particular situation that we're in at times. We have to be able to adjust who we are to be the most effective. The way I am in a public speaking event is totally different than the way I am one-on-one. The way I am right now on Blab is different than the way I am with my granddaughter, who, by the way, is her birthday. She's 4, almost 5, Pappy. So happy birthday, Lou. But the way I am with her is not the way I am with you. Does that mean I'm less authentic now or less authentic then? No. I'm still who I am. But how I portray myself, how I come across, is dependent upon the situation that I'm in. So authenticity is not necessarily how you always are, but it's who you are. When I'm playing with my granddaughter, I am still me, Richard Talbot. When I'm teaching a training course or a mastermind, I am still me, Richard Talbot. But the way I speak, my gestures, the way I dress is different because of the situation. That doesn't make me less authentic, not at all. In fact, I would say it makes me more authentic because it means that I am intentional about what I'm doing. Inauthentic people react like an actor. A true actor reacts to the other characters and to the situation and then moves from there. An authentic person acts based on where they are and what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. So don't be reactionary. Don't be inauthentic. Be you. Play to your strengths. A fourth characteristic of integrity, or what builds trust, is discipline. And this is one that hurts. Hopefully it doesn't hurt you as much as it hurts me. But a true leader is not only self-disciplined, but also is able to discipline those that they are influencing. I think the bigger issue is self-discipline. When I talk about self-discipline, I'm not talking about beating ourselves. I'm not talking about whipping ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever, because we do something wrong. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about controlling oneself, building one's self, becoming more today than, in this case, I was yesterday, and planning to be more tomorrow than I am today by reading, praying, studying, being intentional on reaching out to others, being intentional about being kind, looking at my consistency and my honesty and my authenticity and seeing where I need to keep working and developing and areas where I can celebrate and maximize. So often we look at ourselves and we don't see anything positive. In fact, sometimes we're told not to be positive with ourselves, and I disagree. I think we need to be more positive and more constructive with ourselves, not destructive. And discipline is when we are being constructive, building ourselves up, not so that we can lord it over other people, but where we have something to give. When I was being inauthentic in my earlier example, in my previous role that I had, and job I had, a career that I had, I did not discipline myself. I think there's a direct correlation there between the two. An authentic person does evaluate who they are and what they're doing, and then works on that even more. And that takes discipline. If you've watched some previous videos, you've noticed that I've mentioned a couple times about the need to lose weight and to exercise. And I'm allergic to sweat and pain and needles. I mean, let's be honest. I am worried about people who enjoy exercising. I really am worried about them, but I can understand why they're that way. I just worry about them. I'm not that way. To exercise for the sake of exercising is, I just struggle with that. Yet when I played football in high school, when I played racquetball and broomball and did cross-country skiing in college, I could do those things which were exercise because it was part of a game. Racquetball, tennis, shoot baskets. If you're asking me to go and lift weights and walk on a treadmill, I'll walk on the treadmill if I have something to watch or listen to. If you're asking me to go lift weights, I struggled with that. Even in football, I struggled with that. You ask me to go play a game, okay. Go for a walk with my wife or family member or friend and talk, okay. You ask me to go jog down to the corner and back just for the sake of jogging, I probably wouldn't do that. Discipline will take us places we may not want to go. The difference between a successful person and a person who is not successful, I was told, and I've read multiple times, is that the successful person will do what the non-successful person will not do. If you have a background in sales, let me ask you this question. Is the first call the hardest or the last one? Some would say the first. But notice my question assumed you're going to have to do more than one call on that person. I would submit to you that a salesperson who is successful feels like each time they contact them is just as easy as the first time. And the one that's not successful will give up and stop calling or contacting or reaching out to them after 2, 3, 4 times. But yet most sales are made after 10, 12 times. The successful salesperson has the discipline to keep going and keep calling and keep following up. The successful person has the discipline to go where the undisciplined person fears to tread. And if you have that consistency, and if you have that honesty, and you have that authenticity, and you have that discipline, you're not only building trust with others, but you're going to start trusting yourself even more. Think about that. Do you trust yourself to be a leader? Do you trust yourself to be successful? Do you trust yourself to be significant in this world? I would say most people aren't. Most people do not trust themselves to be successful, to be significant, to be a leader. They may say they do, but look at their actions. Look at their consistency and their honesty and their authenticity. If it's missing, and their discipline, if it's all missing, then they don't trust themselves. Or they're just fooling themselves. And I don't know what's worse, fooling yourself or not trusting yourself. So that's what integrity looks like. It's a person of consistency, of honesty, of being authentic, of self-discipline. A person worthy of trust, hence the word trustworthy. They're worthy of trust. So, out of that then, there are a few things, there's three things, frankly, I want to kind of focus on right now, on how a leader can exhibit and build trust. If they exhibit these three characteristics, they can build trust in the people they want to influence. And then they become a leader. First, they have to be competent. It's kind of a keen sense of the obvious, but I think we need to state that sometimes. It's hard for me to walk into an airplane, sit down at the pilot's seat and say, okay, everybody, we're going to have a safe trip. And the first question asked is, oh, you have a license? No. But I can do it. How many of you would get on a plane knowing that about me if I was the pilot? I would say raise your hands, but A, I couldn't see you, and B, I wouldn't get on the plane with me that way either. There's an old commercial running around by a particular hotel chain here in the United States that the person is doing something very tricky, whether it's surgery or construction, something, and they said, wow, are you an expert? No, I just stayed at this hotel last night and I can do it. And we laugh at those commercials, but how many times do I behave the same way? I've done counseling in the past, but I wouldn't necessarily say I'm always competent in that area. I'm a good public speaker. I know my competency there. And I'm a good teacher or trainer. I know my competency there. And I'm a good coach. I know my competency there. Don't ask me to build software and write code. I am not competent there. Don't ask me to fly a plane without any training because I'm not competent there. So to build trust, a leader must be able to be competent. Second area, they must have connections. They must be willing to make connections and be a connection. A true leader aiming towards success and even more so towards significance, does not cross the finish line alone, as John Maxwell would say. You cross it with your team. If you are truly wanting to be a leader, to influence others in a positive way, again, my assumption is that you want to be that type of leader. If you want to be that, then you have to be a connector, not a divider. You have to connect people to each other and to you. That means you have to allow them into yourself, and you have to be willing to get into them, to learn, to know about them, to grow together. We've talked many times before how a leader, if you're at a 5, your people will never get above a 4 because you don't know how to take them to that level. You need to go up to a 6 or a 7 to raise them up. And a connector, a true leader, to establish trust has to be showing and encouraging people to make those steps up in their life beyond where they think they can be. So you have to be competent. You have to be a connector, and you have to have character. We talked about that before. Charisma may get you into the doorway, but character is going to keep you there. And it's inside the doorway. It's in that room. It's in those people's lives where leadership and significance will take place and occur. So let me ask you, how is your character? You see, you can never go beyond the lines of your character, especially very long. I would say you can't, period. Your character is your limit of who you are. If you're a short-tempered person, then why are you expecting others to be patient when you're not with them? If you're a selfish person, why are you so concerned about other people being selfish? There's a story I've read, and I'm not sure where I read it. It takes place in India. And this lady brought her son to see Mahatma Gandhi. And she said to him, "My son will eat nothing but chocolates and sweets. Tell him to stop eating chocolates." Because she knew he would listen to him instead of to his own mother. And Gandhi looked at the child and smiled and looked at the mother and said, "Come back in 1 month." Well, she thought that was kind of odd, but she left. A month later, she and her son come back again and stood in line to wait to talk to Gandhi. And as they came up, Gandhi remembered them and he smiled. He looked at the child and said, "Please give up sweets and eat right." And the mother stood there for a while like, "You asked us to come back in 30 days, in a month, and we did, and that's all you have to say to him?" And Gandhi looks at the mother and kind of read her mind and said, "You know, I couldn't say anything because 30 days ago I was eating sweets." Your character. There's a law called the law of the lens that John Maxwell writes about in his newest book, The Intentional Living, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But in that is, you see in others what you really see in yourself. And in that regard, that is a reflection of your character. That is a reflection of your character. You cannot move beyond who you are and in your character very long and be an effective, trustworthy leader. Because trust, as I mentioned before, is the true foundation of leadership. And then when you have that, it's built with competency and with a connection with you and others and with your own character. It would be nice to be able to say, I can be a leader without changing my character. And there's some truth in that. You can be a leader without changing your character, but don't complain about the people that you're influencing if they have the same character flaws that you do. And that's the thing I've had to learn, and I'm still learning, is that why should I complain about how my people that I'm influencing are if I'm the same way? So, homework assignment. I love giving homework assignments, as you know. So I'm going to give you a homework assignment right now. I want you to do this over the next few days to a week. Obviously, you don't have to report back to me. If you want to, that'd be great. Again, you can reach me on my website, richardtalbot.net. You can reach me through LinkedIn, Twitter, my Facebook account. But here's your homework assignment. Do you really, if you really want to find out if people trust you, here's what you have to do. Don't, this is a secret. If you really want to find out if people trust you, ask them. Ask them. And how they respond to the question and how they give you the answer will tell you if they trust you or not. If they hem and haw and hedge, if they stand there for a little bit like, how do I say this? Then I would submit to you they don't trust you very much. If they immediately say, yes, I trust you. Why did you ask? Then I would take that as a positive sign. But if you feel like they're having to hedge what they're saying, that they're not sure how you're going to receive what they're going to say, I think you've got your answer. So, do you really want to find out how solid your foundation is on the leadership? If so, ask them. Because the real foundation of leadership is trust. Like the story at the very beginning we talked about, you can try to build your house of leadership on sand or on rocks, with a firm foundation or a weak foundation. If you build it on a weak foundation, that leadership is going to disappear. The storms of life are going to come and wipe it away. But if you build it on a rock, a solid foundation of trust, of consistency, of character, then your leadership is going to last and it's going to be effective. I'm going to be doing, along with partners of mine, friends of mine, we all work together. We're doing a mastermind for 10 weeks long, starting in March 8th. And it's on living a life of significance, which is beyond success in my mind. There is a cost. However, if you're interested, I'd highly recommend the book by John Maxwell, Intentional Living. It's an excellent book. I have it over here, but I don't have it close enough to reach, and I don't feel like letting you just see a blank wall behind me as I go reach for it. But I highly recommend that book. If you are at all interested in being a part of a mastermind of people from around the world, if you'd like to be a part of a mastermind for 10 weeks, interacting with people from around the world, let me know. We'll get you involved. We'll get you that book. Included with the book is 30 days of videos from John Maxwell to encourage you on your intentional living life. Weekly, we'll meet for about an hour, and the three of us will lead a discussion on that particular chapter. And I think you'll find that there's more to life than just being successful. You and I can be significant. Well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned, hopefully, something. Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate you jumping on here and watching at the end. There will be a replay. I do have a YouTube channel, Richard D. Talbot. All my previous ones are up there if you want to watch them as well. I'll be glad to have you do that. But again, the real foundation of leadership is trust. Do your people trust you, and do you trust yourself? I hope so. And I hope this weekend and this coming week is a good time for you. And I can't wait to talk with you next Friday, same time, 2 o'clock Eastern in the United States, 1 o'clock Central, as we continue our discussion on leadership. Have a good day, good evening, good weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.